5 years. That's how long it took me to bury every trace of Nathaniel St. Clair from my life. I built a new one in this quiet city, far from the St. Clair empire, far from the gossip, far from the suffocating weight of his family's expectations. Just me, my tiny apartment, and my daughter, Mia. Mia is 5. She has his eyes, those stupidly perfect almond-shaped things with dark lashes that make everyone stop and stare. She has his nose, too, and when she tilts her head in quiet thought, she looks exactly like him. But her personality, that's all mine. She's clingy and sweet, the kind of kid who wraps her little arms around your neck and whispers "I love you, mommy," like it's the most natural thing in the world. She's the only reason I made it through the last 5 years without falling apart. No one knows she exists. Not his family. Not him. I made sure of that. It was a lazy autumn afternoon. Sunlight streamed through the living room windows, and I was knee-deep in a pile of clothes, sorting out summer stuff we wouldn't need anymore. Mia was parked on the rug with my old phone, the one I'd kept from my old life. The one that still had his private number saved in the contacts, untouched for 5 years. I never deleted it. I couldn't bring myself to. It was stupid, I know. Like holding on to a ghost. But Mia didn't know that. She's only 5. She can't read, so she just tapped the screen with her chubby little fingers, scrolling through whatever caught her eye. I heard the dial tone a second too late. Beep. 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 My blood went cold. I spun around, dropping a sweater on the floor, but it was already too late. The call had gone through. Hello? That voice. Deep. Rough. Like gravel wrapped in silk. I hadn't heard it in 5 years, but I'd recognize it anywhere. It was him. Nathaniel. Mia held the phone up to her ear like she'd done it 1,000 times, her little face scrunched in concentration. Hi, mister, my name is Mia. I'm 5 years old. I felt the floor drop out from under me. 5. She said she was 5. On the other end, there was a long, terrible silence. Then his voice came back, softer now, almost careful. Mia, that's a beautiful name. Whose phone are you using? My mommy's old one, she said, swinging her legs. She's cleaning the closet. I'm being good and not bothering her. I could hear him breathing. It was shaky, uneven. I'd never heard him sound like that. Not once in all the years I knew him. And who's your mommy, sweetheart? He asked, the words barely above a whisper. Mia opened her mouth to answer, but I was already moving. I crossed the room in 3 steps, snatched the phone from her hand, and slammed my finger on the end call button. The line went dead. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I stood there, gripping the phone like it might bite me, staring at the blank screen. The name still glowed in the recent calls list, Nathaniel. Mommy? Mia tugged at my shirt, her big eyes confused. Why did you hang up? I liked that, mister. I forced myself to breathe. To calm down. I knelt in front of her and smoothed her hair back, giving her my best smile. Wrong number, baby. We don't talk to strangers. She nodded, satisfied with that, and went back to her toys. Just like that. No trauma. No drama. Kids are like that, they move on in 2 seconds. But I couldn't move on. I locked the phone, stuck it in the top drawer of my dresser, and told myself it was fine. A one-time mistake. He didn't know where we were. He didn't know her name. He didn't even know she existed, until now. Except I knew Nathaniel St. Clair. And I knew he would not let that call go unanswered. Across town, in the penthouse office of St. Clair Group, Nathaniel sat frozen in his leather chair, the dead phone still pressed to his ear. The dial tone had faded into silence, but he didn't lower the phone. He couldn't. 5 years old. 5 years. He set the phone down slowly, carefully, like it was made of glass. Then he leaned back and stared at the ceiling, his jaw tight, his hands curled into fists on the armrests. She had his child. His daughter. And she'd kept her from him for 5 whole years. A slow, dangerous smile touched his mouth. Not a happy one. A determined one. He picked up the office line and dialed his head of security. I need everything on Evelyn right now. And find out if she has a 5-year-old daughter. He hung up and turned his chair toward the window, looking out over the city that had never felt emptier. You can run, Evelyn, he murmured to the glass. But you can't hide from me. Not anymore. Mia's cough hadn't let up for 3 days. Not bad enough to scare me, but bad enough that I didn't want to gamble with it. I took her to the private children's clinic across town, the one I'd been using since she was a baby. Quiet, professional, no crowds. just the way I liked it. She sat in my lap while we waited for her name to be called, her little legs swinging, humming some nonsense song she made up. I was adjusting the strap on her tiny jacket when I heard it. Well, well. Look who crawled back from the dead. I looked up. And there she was. Olivia St. Claire, Nathaniel's cousin. The one who'd made my life hell every time we were in the same room. She was draped in designer labels, her face caked with enough makeup to fund a small country, and she was staring at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. Olivia, I said flatly. Still wearing too much lipstick, I see. Her smile twisted. Then her eyes dropped to Mia. And I watched it happen in real time, the confusion, the dawning realization, the sharp spike of something ugly in her gaze. Mia looks like Nathaniel. There's no hiding it. The eyes, the nose, the way she tilts her head. Anyone with working eyes could see it. Olivia stepped closer, loud enough that the other patients in the waiting room started glancing over. So this is why you disappeared 5 years ago. You were pregnant. She let out a nasty little laugh. Did you really think you could just show up with a St. Claire baby and waltz back into the family? That's pathetic, Evelyn. Even for you. I felt Mia shrink against me. Her little fingers clutched my sleeve, and I could feel her heart beating fast against my side. She didn't understand what was happening, but she knew it was bad. Kids always know. I put my hand on the back of her head and pulled her closer, my voice dropping to something cold. Watch your mouth, Olivia. I'm not in the mood. Oh, I'm supposed to be scared of you now, she laughed again, louder this time, drawing more eyes. You're nothing. You were nothing 5 years ago, and you're still nothing. But you sure played the long game, didn't you? Get pregnant, disappear, wait for Nathaniel to become the most powerful man in the city, then trot out his kid like a golden ticket. Smart. Calculated. Disgusting. People were whispering. I could hear them. Who is she? Is that the St. Claire Ayres kid? Did she really do that? Mia's grip on my shirt tightened. Her bottom lip started to tremble. That was it. That was the line. I stood up, keeping Mia behind me, and looked Olivia dead in the eye. Let me make something very clear, I said, my voice low but steady enough to cut glass. I left 5 years ago because I wanted to. Not because I was running. Not because I was scheming. I walked out the door with nothing but the clothes on my back and never asked your family for a dime. Not one. Olivia opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. I built my life from scratch. My business. My home. My daughter. I tilted my head, letting her see exactly how unimpressed I was. And if you think for 1 second I'd drag my child back into that circus just to get your cousin's attention, you're dumber than you look. Which, honestly, is saying something. The whispers shifted. A woman across the room muttered, "Good for her." Someone else chuckled. Olivia's face flushed red. "You're making a fool of yourself, Olivia," I added, smoothing Mia's hair back. "And trust me, everyone here can see it. She pointed a shaking finger at me. You think you're so clever? I'm telling Aunt Margaret about this. I'm telling everyone. You can't just hide a St. Claire Ayres and pretend it's nothing. Tell whoever you want," I said with a shrug. "I'm not hiding anything. Her name is Mia. She's 5. She's mine. And if you come near us again with that garbage attitude, I'll have security walk you out so fast your heels will catch fire." Olivia stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This wasn't the Evelyn she remembered, the quiet one who bit her tongue and took the insults. That girl was gone. She'd been gone for a long time. "Enjoy the wait," I said, turning my back on her and sitting back down with Mia in my arms. "Or don't. I really don't care." Olivia stood there for a solid 10 seconds, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then she spun around and stormed out, her heels clicking furiously against the tile floor. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "You okay, baby?" I whispered into Mia's hair. She nodded against my chest. "Mommy, that lady was mean." "Yeah, baby. Some people are just like that." I kissed the top of her head. "You did so good. You were so brave." "Mommy was braver," she said, hugging me tight. "You were like a superhero." I laughed, soft and a little shaky. "That's my girl." 3 blocks away, in a black sedan idling at the curb, a man in a suit watched Olivia storm out of the clinic. He lifted his phone to his ear. "Mr. St. Claire, it's done. We have visual confirmation. The child is definitely yours." And Miss Wright held her own against Miss Olivia. Didn't even flinch. A pause. Then Nathaniel's voice came through, low and sharp. Did Olivia touch them? No, sir. Just words. Call Olivia. Tell her if I ever hear she spoke to Evelyn or my daughter again, she's cut off. No trust fund. No allowance. No family. The assistant swallowed. Yes, sir. Anything else? A beat of silence. Then, quieter, tell me the exact words Evelyn said. The assistant relayed the conversation word for word. When he finished, Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment. Then, barely audible, almost to himself, that's my Evelyn. I should have known Olivia wouldn't keep her mouth shut. That woman could gossip faster than the tabloids could print. So when I walked Mia into the outdoor plaza at the high-end shopping center the next weekend, I wasn't entirely surprised to see Margaret St. Claire standing there like a queen waiting for her subjects to bow. She was dressed in cream-colored silk, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, her posture so straight it looked like she'd swallowed a ruler. Margaret had never liked me. She tolerated me, at best, because Nathaniel loved me. But tolerance isn't acceptance, and she made sure I knew the difference every single day. Mia was holding my hand, clutching a pink balloon she'd picked out from a vendor, her little face bright and happy. She didn't notice the tension, not yet. Evelyn. Margaret's voice cut through the crowd like a knife. No hello. No warmth. Just my name, thrown at me like an accusation. I stopped walking. Mia looked up at me, then at the fancy lady staring us down. I squeezed her hand and gave her a small smile. Stay behind mommy, okay, baby? She nodded, pressing herself against my leg. Margaret, I said, keeping my tone even. It's been a while. 5 years, she said, stepping closer, her eyes already locked on Mia. I watched her drink in every detail, the dark lashes, the sharp cheekbones, the way Mia's little mouth curved when she was nervous. Margaret's face went pale, then flushed. Olivia told me. I didn't want to believe it. But look at her. She's unmistakable. I didn't flinch. She looks like her father. That's not a crime. Her father. Margaret's voice went razor sharp. You mean my son? The one you walked out on without a word. The one you left broken and searching for you for 5 years. And now you show up with a child who could be his double, and you expect me to believe this was all coincidence? I expect nothing from you, I said calmly. I came here to buy my daughter a balloon, not to explain my life to you. Margaret's eyes narrowed. How old is she? You already know. Olivia must have told you. I want to hear it from you. She stepped even closer, and I had to resist the urge to back away. She was smaller than me, but she knew how to use her presence like a weapon. How old, Evelyn? 5, I said, keeping Mia tucked securely behind me. She's 5 years old. I saw the math click behind her eyes. She counted backward, her lips pressing into a thin, hard line. You were pregnant when you left. You knew, and you left anyway. I knew I couldn't stay. I met her stare head on. Your family made that very clear. Every day you reminded me I wasn't good enough. Every glance. Every whispered comment. The way you treated me at every dinner, every event, every holiday. I was never going to be what you wanted for Nathaniel. And I wasn't going to let you tear me apart while I carried his child. Margaret's jaw tightened. So you ran. You hid her from us. From him. That's not noble, Evelyn. That's cruel. Cruel? I laughed, and there was no humor in it. Cruel was watching you pick apart everything I did, everything I wore, everything I said. Cruel was knowing Nathaniel would never choose me over his family, no matter how much he loved me. I left to save myself. And I left to protect her. I looked down at Mia, who was peeking around my leg, her big eyes wide and nervous. She deserves a life where people love her for who she is, not judge her for who her grandparents are. Margaret's face flickered. For just a second, something softened around her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by cold steel. She's a St. Claire. Whether you like it or not. And St. Claire children don't grow up in some little apartment with a baker for a mother. Wow. I shook my head slowly. You really haven't changed at all, have you, still measuring everyone's worth by their bank account? Don't you dare. I'm not finished. I held up a hand, and she actually stopped. I have built my life from nothing. I have a successful business. I own my home. I provide for my daughter without anyone's help. Least of all yours. And I don't owe you a single explanation, Margaret. Not one. I knelt down and scooped Mia into my arms, holding her close. She wrapped her little arms around my neck, her face pressed into my shoulder. I turned back to Margaret one last time. If you want to know your granddaughter, you can start by treating me like a human being. Until then, stay away from us. I walked past her, my heart pounding, my back straight, Mia's small body warm and safe against my chest. I didn't look back. From the second-floor balcony of the luxury boutique above the plaza, Nathaniel stood perfectly still, a pair of compact binoculars hanging loosely from his fingers. He'd watched the whole thing. Every word. Every glare. Every moment his mother made his Evelyn's jaw tighten. He pulled out his phone and dialed. It rang twice. Nathaniel. His mother's voice was clipped, annoyed. I don't have time. Then make time, he interrupted, his voice low and absolutely cold. I just watched you corner Evelyn and Mia in the middle of the plaza. A pause. You were watching? I always watch, he said flatly. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to leave her alone. You're going to stop sniffing around my daughter like she's a business acquisition. And if I ever hear you threatened or humiliated Evelyn again, even once, I will cut you out of my life so completely you'll wonder if I was ever your son at all. Nathaniel, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything. He turned away from the railing, his jaw set. Evelyn Wright is the mother of my child. And one day, if I'm lucky, she'll be my wife. You can be part of that, or you can be an obstacle. But make no mistake, I will remove anything that stands between me and them. He hung up before she could respond. Below, he watched Evelyn climb into her car, Mia still in her arms. He could see her shaking slightly, the adrenaline wearing off. Even from this distance, he could tell she was holding it together the way she always did, chin up, shoulders back, no tears. He pressed his palm against the glass, his heart hammering. I'm coming, Evelyn. Just hold on a little longer. Monday morning hit me like a truck. But in a good way. My bakery studio had been getting steady traction over the past year, but nothing prepared me for the email that landed in my inbox at 7:03 a.m. St. Clair Group, Annual Family Banquet. Full dessert table. All custom. Budget, open. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I read it again. Then I called my assistant, Sarah, into the office and asked if she was seeing the same thing I was. She said, squinting at her own screen. Yeah. That's definitely a St. Clair banquet. And that's definitely an insane amount of zeros. I rubbed my temples. It's a trap. Has to be. Or it's just business, Sarah offered. They don't know you're the Evelyn Wright. It's probably some corporate admin who just Googled best bakery in the city and your name popped up. I wanted to believe that. God, I wanted to. But deep down, I knew better. The St. Clairs didn't do coincidence. And after the run-ins with Olivia and Margaret, there was no way this was random. Still. $30,000. All custom. The kind of job that could double my studio's exposure and set me up for the next year. Fine, I said, exhaling. Schedule the meeting. But if anyone named St. Clair shows up, we're turning them away. The meeting was set for Wednesday afternoon. I prepped everything, samples, pricing breakdowns, ingredient sourcing documents. I was ready. Or at least I thought I was. The door to my studio swung open at exactly 3 p.m., and in walked Brandon St. Clair, Olivia's older brother, flanked by two other St. Clair cousins I vaguely remembered from family parties. The kind who wore expensive watches and talked about trust funds like they were pocket change. Brandon looked around my studio like he was inspecting a construction site, his upper lip curling. Cozy, he said, dragging the word out like an insult. Very, homemade. Brandon. I didn't offer my hand. What are you doing here? Business, he said, dropping into a chair without being invited. His cousins stayed standing, arms crossed, smirks on their faces. We're here to finalize the banquet order. I folded my arms. Then you've got the wrong place. I don't deal with middlemen. I deal directly with the client. Brandon laughed, loud and ugly. Honey, the client is St. Clair. And I'm St. Clair. So you deal with me. He gestured at the chair across from him. Sit down. Let's talk numbers. I stayed standing. The quote was sent in the original email. $30,000 for the full custom package. That's the number. Brandon leaned back, lacing his fingers behind his head. See, here's the thing. $30,000 is what we'd pay a celebrity pastry chef. You're not that. You're just some girl who used to date my cousin and now runs a little hobby shop. So we're going to pay you $10,000. Take it or leave it. I felt my jaw tighten. I'm not negotiating. You're not? One of the cousins snorted. You think you're in a position to say no? Claire contract, even at a discount, is still gold. You take this, you get exposure. You don't, we tell everyone in the city you're difficult to work with. Good luck keeping your little business going after that. I walked over to my desk, picked up the folder with all my pricing documentation, and dropped it in front of Brandon. Open it. Every single expense is accounted for. Premium ingredients. Handcrafted decor. A 4-person team for setup and breakdown. The markup is minimal. $30,000 is already a fair price. Brandon didn't even glance at the folder. He swept his arm across the desk and sent the whole thing flying. Papers scattered across the floor, along with a sample tray that shattered against the tile. Mia wasn't there. Thank God, Mia wasn't there. There's your fair price, Brandon said, grinning. Now pick it up and tell me yes or no. And think very carefully before you answer. Because I promise you, if you say no, your phone will stop ringing. Your emails will stop coming. And in 6 months, you'll be selling cookies out of a food truck in a bad part of town. I looked at the scattered papers. I looked at the broken tray. Then I looked at Brandon and his smirking cousins, and I felt something inside me go very, very still. Pick them up, I said calmly. Excuse me? You heard me. I walked around the desk and stood directly in front of him. Pick up every single paper you just knocked off my desk. Apologize for wasting my time. And walk out of my studio before I call the police and press charges for vandalism. Brandon stood up slowly, towering over me. You're making a mistake. No, I said, not backing up an inch. I'm making a point. I don't negotiate with bullies. I don't take threats. And I definitely don't let some trust fund brat walk into my business and treat me like dirt. Get out. Now. Brandon's face went red. He opened his mouth. And my office phone rang. I almost ignored it. But something in the way it rang, sharp, insistent, made me pick it up. Evelyn Wright, I answered. Miss Wright. A man's voice. Professional. Calm. This is Davis, Mr. St. Claire's personal assistant. I'm calling on his behalf. I felt Brandon stiffen behind me. His cousins exchanged nervous looks. The banquet order, Davis continued, will proceed at the original quoted price of $30,000. Full custom package. Your team leads the creative direction. And any St. Claire family member who attempts to interfere with this agreement, by reducing the price, threatening you, or otherwise harassing you, will be dealt with personally by Mr. St. Claire. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Then a new voice came on the line. Low. Quiet. Familiar in a way that made my heart do something stupid in my chest. My collaborator, Nathaniel said, his tone ice cold, doesn't get bullied. He hung up. The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly and turned to face Brandon. His face had gone white. His cousins looked like they wanted to crawl under the floorboards. So, I said, my voice steady as a rock. Are we done here? Brandon swallowed hard. This is a misunderstanding. Is it? I gestured at the scattered papers, the broken tray. Because it looked a lot like you were threatening to destroy my business if I didn't roll over for you. I was just, he faltered. I was. You were done, I said. Pick up the papers. Apologize. And if I ever see you in this studio again, I'll call Mr. St. Claire myself. And I don't think you want that. Brandon bent down, actually bent down, and started gathering the papers off the floor. His cousins scrambled to help. When they were done, he set the stack on my desk, muttered something that might have been an apology, and practically ran out the door. I stood there for a long time, staring at the phone. He'd called. He'd protected me. He'd been listening the whole time. And that voice, God, that voice, it hadn't changed at all. Still deep. Still dangerous. Still capable of making my whole body feel like it was on fire. I sat down in my chair, put my head in my hands, and let myself breathe. You're not supposed to still feel something for him, Evelyn. You left for a reason. But the reason didn't feel very solid right now. Not when he'd just burned down an entire branch of his family to protect a bakery contract. Not when he'd said my collaborator like it was the most natural thing in the world. Not when he'd whispered 6 words that made my heart race and my walls crack at the same time. You're not okay, I said to myself. You're really, really not okay. Across the city, Nathaniel hung up the office phone and sat motionless in his chair. His assistant, Davis, stood by the door, waiting. Sir, Davis said carefully, she didn't ask for help. I know. She didn't even mention you. I know. Nathaniel turned his chair toward the window, a ghost of a smile on his lips. She never does. That's what makes her Evelyn. He paused, the smile fading into something harder. Brandon. Cut him. No more projects. No more committee seats. And let the family know, anyone who tries to intimidate her, shame her, or even breathe in her direction without her permission, will deal with me directly. Yes, sir. Nathaniel watched the city below him, his mind still lingering on the sound of her voice. Angry. Defiant. Unbroken. God, he missed her. Davis, he said quietly. Find out if she's free this weekend. And find out where she takes Mia for playdates. Davis blinked. Sir? Nathaniel's smile returned, slow and dangerous. I think it's time I met my daughter properly. The St. Clair annual family banquet was the kind of event that made the society pages for weeks. Everyone who was anyone showed up. The old money, the new money, the wannabes, the hangers-on. All of them dressed to the nines, all of them desperate to be seen next to Nathaniel St. Clair. I knew all of this because I'd been to 3 of these banquets before I left. And I hated every single one of them. So when the night of the banquet arrived, I was safely at home, tucked into my pajamas with Mia already asleep in her room. I'd made sure the event was covered by my team. Sarah was handling the setup, delivery, and on-site supervision. I'd deliberately stayed away. No need to tempt fate. Or so I thought. The St. Clair mansion was lit up like a palace. Chandeliers, crystal glasses, waiters in black ties gliding between tables. The whole city's elite was packed into the ballroom, sipping champagne and pretending they didn't care about the guest of honor. Nathaniel stood at the head of the main table, his custom suit immaculate, his expression carved from stone. He'd been fielding questions for 3 hours. Business deals. Political alliances. And the ever-present question, when are you going to settle down, Nathaniel? He gave the same answer every time. A polite smile. A non-committal shrug. Then a quick exit to the bar. Margaret was seated 2 chairs down from him, her smile fixed and plastic. She'd been shooting him glances all night, and he'd been ignoring every single one. After their phone call in the plaza, she'd backed off, but he could feel her calculating. She was always calculating. Another glass, Mr. St. Clair? A waiter asked. Nathaniel shook his head. I'm fine. He scanned the room. The cousins were all here. Olivia was gossiping in the corner, her face pinched with barely concealed rage. Brandon was nursing a whiskey at the bar, still pale from his humiliation at Evelyn's studio. Good. Let them squirm. The only thing missing was the one person he actually wanted here. Back at the apartment, Mia woke up thirsty. She padded out of her room in her little unicorn pajamas, blinking sleepily. I was still awake, curled up on the couch with a book, trying very hard not to think about where Nathaniel was right now. Mommy, she mumbled, rubbing her eyes, I want water. I got up, filled her sippy cup, and handed it to her. She drank slowly, her eyes drifting to the door. Mommy, she said again, where's the party? What party, baby? The one with the castle. She pointed at the TV, where some random show had a picture of a fancy mansion. Is that where the nice mister lives? I froze. What nice mister? The one I talked to on the phone. He had a nice voice. She smiled sleepily. He said my name was pretty. I liked him. My heart clenched. I knelt down in front of her. Mia, that was just a stranger. We don't. He's not a stranger, Mommy. She looked at me with those big, earnest eyes. He's my daddy, isn't he? The words hit me like a physical blow. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. Who told you that? Nobody. She shrugged, totally unconcerned. I just know. He sounded like me. I didn't know what to say. Mia had never asked about her father before. Not once. I'd always assumed she didn't care, or that she didn't notice the absence. But kids notice everything. They just don't always talk about it. Mia, sweetheart. I want to meet him, she said simply. Can we go see him? I shook my head. Baby, it's late. He's busy. We can. He's at the castle party. She pointed at the TV again. I saw it. The nice lady on the show said the St. Clairs are having a party tonight. That's his family, right? I wanted to scream. The TV. Of all things, the TV had betrayed me. Mia, listen to me. But she was already pulling away, her little mind made up. She walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped into the hallway before I could stop her. Mia, I grabbed my coat, my keys, my shoes, shoving everything on as I chased after her. But she was already at the elevator, pressing the button with her tiny finger. Baby, please. I just want to see him, Mommy. She looked up at me, and there were tears in her eyes. Real tears. Everyone else has a daddy. Why can't I have one? Something inside me shattered. I knelt down and pulled her into a hug. Okay, I whispered. Okay, baby. Let's go see him. But you have to stay close to me, understand? No wandering off. She nodded against my shoulder. I promise. I didn't know what I was doing. I was running toward the one thing I'd been running from for 5 years. But my daughter wanted to meet her father. And I couldn't say no to that face. I'd never been able to say no to that face. The St. Clair mansion was swarming with guests when Mia slipped through the front door. She'd gotten away from me for 30 seconds, just 30 seconds, while I was arguing with the security guard at the gate. By the time I got inside, she was gone. I felt my heart stop. Mia, MIA. But the ballroom was too loud. Too crowded. Too full of people who didn't know I existed and didn't care. Inside the grand ballroom, the music swelled. Nathaniel was mid-conversation with a senator when he felt something tug at his pant leg. He looked down. A little girl in unicorn pajamas stared up at him with his eyes. His exact eyes. She had his nose, his cheekbones, his stubborn little chin. And she was smiling. Hi, she said, her voice soft and sweet. You're my daddy, right? The music didn't stop. The conversation didn't pause. But Nathaniel's world did. He dropped to one knee, right there in front of everyone. The senator froze. The entire table went silent. Slowly, like dominoes, the whole room turned and stared. He looked at this tiny creature who was half him, half the woman he'd loved and lost, and he felt his throat close up. Hi, he said, his voice cracking. I think I might be. What's your name, sweetheart? Mia. She reached up and touched his face, her little fingers tracing his jaw. You look like me. Mommy said that was a coincidence. But I don't think it was a coincidence. Nathaniel laughed, and it came out broken and wet. No, baby. It wasn't a coincidence. He pulled her into a careful hug, holding her like she was made of glass. I've been looking for you. For a really, really long time. The room erupted. Whispers. Gasps. Phones coming out. Olivia's face turning purple. Margaret clutching her pearls, her mouth open and useless. But Nathaniel didn't see any of it. All he saw was the little girl in his arms, her tiny hands gripping his jacket, her sleepy voice murmuring, I knew it. I knew you were my daddy. Then he looked up, and across the room, through the crowd of gawking strangers, he saw her. Evelyn. She was standing by the entrance, pale as milk, her hand pressed over her mouth. She'd found them. She was watching him hold their daughter. And for the first time in 5 years, Nathaniel St. Clair cried. Silent tears streaming down his face, and he didn't care who saw. Evelyn, he said, and even from across the room, she heard him. She started walking toward them, shoving through the crowd, her eyes locked on Mia. I'm sorry, she was saying. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen, she just. But Nathaniel shook his head, standing up with Mia still in his arms. He held her out to Evelyn like an offering. Don't apologize, he said, his voice raw. Please. Just don't. He looked at the room full of people, his family, his enemies, his allies. And then he spoke, loud enough for everyone to hear. This is my daughter. Mia St. Clair. And the woman I should have married 5 years ago. He turned to Evelyn, his eyes burning. We're done hiding. We're done running. And if anyone in this room has a problem with that, they can leave. Now. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. A distant cousin, brave enough to break the tension. Then another. Then the whole room. Evelyn stared at Nathaniel, her heart pounding so loud she couldn't hear anything else. He was holding their daughter. He was claiming them in front of everyone. And he was looking at her like she was the only person in the world. She took a step forward. Then another. And for the first time in 5 years, she let herself feel something other than fear. The banquet wound down slowly. Guests trickled out, still buzzing with gossip, their phones full of photos and videos that would be all over social media by morning. Nathaniel didn't care. He hadn't let go of Mia since she'd walked through the door. She'd fallen asleep in his arms about 20 minutes ago, her little face pressed against his chest, her breathing soft and even. He held her like she might disappear if he put her down. Evelyn stood a few feet away, her arms wrapped around herself, watching them. She looked exhausted. She looked terrified. She looked like she wanted to run. Don't, Nathaniel said quietly. Don't what? Don't think about running. He shifted Mia slightly, adjusting his grip so she wouldn't wake. I can see it on your face. You're already planning your escape route. Evelyn's jaw tightened. I came here because she wanted to meet you. That doesn't mean. Doesn't mean what? He took a step closer, his voice still low, still careful, but with an edge beneath it. Doesn't mean you have to stay, doesn't mean I get to know my daughter, doesn't mean we get to have a conversation that's been 5 years overdue? She looked away. Nathaniel, you don't understand. Then make me understand. His voice cracked. Please. I've been waiting for 5 years to hear your side of the story. And I'm tired. I'm so tired of waking up every morning wondering if you're okay, if you're happy, if you ever think about me at all. Evelyn's throat tightened. Of course I think about you. That's the problem. What problem? She finally looked at him. Really looked. And the weight of 5 years was in her eyes, the loneliness, the fear, the love she'd tried so hard to bury. The problem is that I loved you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I loved you so much it terrified me. And your family made it very clear that I would never be good enough for you. Every single day. Every dinner. Every glance. And you, she shook her head, wiping at her eyes. You loved me too. I know you did. But you would never have left them for me. I wasn't going to spend my life waiting to be chosen. So I chose myself. Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, you were right. She blinked. What? You were right. He adjusted Mia again, his jaw working. I loved you. God, I loved you more than I've ever loved anything. But I was too weak to stand up to them. I told myself I could fix it. That if I just waited long enough, they'd come around. I thought I had time. He laughed bitterly. And then you disappeared. And I spent 5 years hating myself for not fighting harder. Evelyn opened her mouth, but nothing came out. You want to know what I did after you left? Nathaniel continued, his voice raw. I tore through every address, every phone number, every social media account. I hired people to find you. I almost burned through my entire fortune. And when I couldn't find you, I sat in my office and he stopped, swallowing hard. I broke. I actually broke, Evelyn. I've never told anyone that. But I did. Nathaniel. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. He took another step closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. That familiar scent she'd tried so hard to forget. I'm telling you because you need to know. You need to know that I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not weak anymore. I'm not afraid of them. And I will burn every bridge I have to build one back to you. Mia stirred in his arms, murmuring something about unicorns. He rocked her gently, his eyes never leaving Evelyn's face. I don't expect you to trust me, he said softly. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I'm asking you for a chance. Just a chance. Let me be her father. Let me be in your life. Even if it's just as a co-parent. Even if it's just as a friend. I'll take whatever you're willing to give me. Evelyn's resolve cracked. The wall she'd built around her heart for 5 years started crumbling, brick by brick. You can't just say things like that, she whispered. You can't just show up and say the perfect thing and expect me to. I'm not trying to say the perfect thing. He reached out with his free hand and gently touched her cheek. The contact sent electricity through her entire body. I'm just telling you the truth. The truth is I've been in love with you every single day for the last 5 years. The truth is I've never looked at another woman. The truth is that I'm looking at you right now, holding our daughter, and I've never been more terrified or more hopeful in my entire life. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. That's not fair. I know. His thumb brushed her cheek. Life's not fair. You taught me that. But I'm asking you to let me try. Let me prove I can be the man you needed back then. I'll spend the rest of my life doing it if I have to. The door to the garden opened. Olivia stepped out, her face twisted with barely concealed rage. Nathaniel, Aunt Margaret wants to, she stopped when she saw them. Then her eyes dropped to Mia, asleep in his arms. Unbelievable. You're still out here with. Go back inside. Nathaniel's voice shifted. The warmth vanished, replaced by ice. Now. Olivia's mouth opened. You can't just talk to me like. I can talk to you however I want. He turned to face her fully, Mia still cradled protectively against his chest. "You're not family to me, Olivia. Not anymore. You threatened my daughter's mother. You spread rumors about my child. You've done nothing but try to tear down the woman I love for 5 years. And I'm done pretending you don't exist. So go inside. Gather your things. And leave the estate. You're not welcome here anymore." Olivia's face went white. "You can't." "I can." His tone brooked no argument. "I own this house. I own everything you have, Olivia. And if you so much as look at Evelyn or Mia again, I'll take it all. Every last cent. Do you understand?" Olivia stared at him, her mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. Then she spun around and stormed back inside, slamming the door behind her. Nathaniel exhaled slowly and turned back to Evelyn. The ice melted from his eyes. "I'm sorry you had to see that." Evelyn shook her head. "You don't have to apologize for standing up for us. I'll always stand up for you." He reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "That's not going to change. Ever." Evelyn squeezed his hand back. It was a small gesture. A tiny crack in the armor she'd worn for so long. "One step at a time," she said quietly. "That's all I can promise." Nathaniel smiled. It was the first real smile she'd seen on his face in 5 years. "One step at a time," he repeated. "I'll take it." Nathaniel insisted on driving us home. Actually, insisted is too mild a word. He practically begged. He stood there in the garden, Mia still asleep in his arms, and looked at me with those eyes that had always been my undoing. "Let me take you home," he said. "Please. I don't want you taking a cab at this hour. I don't want you driving. He stopped, shaking his head. "I just want to make sure you're safe." I should have said no. Every logical part of my brain was screaming at me to say no. But I looked at him holding our daughter, his suit wrinkled, his tie loosened, his eyes red-rimmed from the tears he'd shed in front of everyone, and I couldn't. "Okay," I said quietly. "Okay." The car ride was silent. Not the awkward kind of silence. The comfortable kind. The kind where two people have said so much already that they don't need to fill every moment with words. Nathaniel sat in the back with Mia still in his arms, her little hand curled around his thumb. He kept looking down at her like she was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. When we pulled up to my apartment building, he carried her all the way up. I unlocked the door, and he walked into my home like he'd been there 1,000 times. He laid Mia gently on her bed, pulled the covers up to her chin, and stood there for a long moment just watching her breathe. "She's perfect," he whispered. "She's a handful," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "She gets up at 6. She refuses to eat vegetables. She sings the same song over and over until you want to pull your hair out." Nathaniel smiled. "She sounds like you. She sounds like you. She has your stubbornness. She has your heart." He turned to look at me, and there was so much warmth in his eyes it almost hurt to see. "You did an incredible job, Evelyn. She's happy. She's healthy. She's loved. That's all because of you." I looked away. "I did what I had to do. You did more than that." He walked toward me, slow and careful, like I was a deer that might bolt. "You gave her everything. And you gave me something I didn't deserve. A second chance." I opened my mouth to respond, but he was already at the door, pulling on his coat. "I'll let you get some sleep," he said. "But I'll be back tomorrow. If that's okay. I want to spend time with her. With both of you." I nodded. "Tomorrow. Yes. That's fine." He smiled again, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Then he was gone, and I was alone in my apartment, my heart racing, my mind spinning. What the hell was happening? The next few weeks were a blur. Nathaniel showed up every single day. He brought Mia toys, books, dresses, snacks, anything she mentioned in passing. He took her to the park, to the zoo, to the aquarium. He sat through tea parties with her stuffed animals and let her paint his nails bright pink. He showed up at my studio with coffee for me and the whole team, and he never once complained about the late hours or the early mornings. The family was in chaos. Margaret had called me 3 times, which was 3 more times than she'd called me in the entire 5 years I'd been gone. She wanted to meet Mia. Properly. Formally. She wanted to discuss arrangements. I told her I'd think about it and hung up. Nathaniel's cousins kept calling him, trying to figure out where they stood. He told them all the same thing, except Evelyn and Mia, or get out. Most of them chose to stay. A few, like Olivia and Brandon, chose to leave. Nathaniel didn't even blink. And then, 3 weeks after the banquet, there was a party. It was a small thing. Just Nathaniel's closest circle, his two best friends, some cousins who'd actually been supportive, and a few of my colleagues from the studio. We were celebrating something or other. I don't even remember what. All I remember is that someone had brought whiskey, and Nathaniel had been drinking it. A lot of it. By the time the party wound down, he was leaning heavily against me, his head on my shoulder, his words starting to slur. "Evelyn," he mumbled, his breath warm against my neck. "Evelyn, you're so pretty." I rolled my eyes. "You're drunk." "I'm not drunk. I'm honest." He wrapped his arms around my waist and pulled me closer. There's a difference. His best friend, Alex, was still there. He was watching us with an amused grin. "Nathaniel, let her breathe." Nathaniel ignored him completely. He nuzzled into my hair, and I felt my face flush. "I missed you so much," he whispered. So much. You don't even know." "Nathaniel. Every night. Every single night. I'd close my eyes and see your face." He pressed his forehead against my shoulder, and his voice cracked. "And I couldn't find you. I couldn't." He stopped, swallowing hard. "I thought I'd lost you forever. And it was my fault. All my fault." I stroked his hair without thinking. "It wasn't your fault. It was." He pulled back, his eyes glassy and red. "I was a coward. I should have fought for you. I should have told my family to go to hell. I should have," he broke off, a single tear sliding down his cheek. "I should have married you the moment I knew I loved you." Alex whistled quietly. "Wow. He's really going for it." I shot him a look. "Could you give us a minute?" Alex held up his hands and retreated to the kitchen. I turned back to Nathaniel, who was now gazing at me like I was the only person in the world. "I mean it," he said, his voice fierce despite the slurring. "I should have married you 5 years ago. You were it for me. You've always been it for me." "Nathaniel, you're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking straighter than I have in 5 years." He grabbed my hands, his grip tight and desperate. "I love you, Evelyn. I never stopped. I'll never stop. And I'm not asking you to marry me tonight, because that would be insane, but I'm asking you to give us a chance. A real chance. You, me, Mia. A family." I felt the tears welling up again. "Nathaniel. I'll be better," he said. "I promise. I'll be better for you. I'll be the man you deserve. Just tell me you'll try. Tell me you'll stay." I looked at him, this man I'd loved so desperately, this man I'd run from, this man I'd never quite been able to forget. And I knew, in that moment, that my heart had already made its decision. It had made it the moment I saw him holding Mia in that ballroom. "I'll stay," I whispered. "I'll try." His face broke into a smile so radiant it made my chest ache. He pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. "I love you," he said again. "I love you so much." "I love you too," I said, and for the first time in 5 years, I meant it without a single reservation. From the kitchen, Alex appeared with his phone raised. "I'm sending this to everyone. This is gold." Nathaniel didn't even look up. "I don't care. She said she loves me." I laughed, the sound bubbling out of me like champagne. "You're ridiculous." "Ridiculously in love with you," he corrected, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Now stop laughing and let me hug you." I stopped laughing. But I didn't stop smiling. And I didn't let go. The morning after the party, I woke up with Nathaniel's arm draped over my waist and Mia's small foot pressed against my back. Somehow, we'd all ended up in my bed, Nathaniel insisting he couldn't drive home, Mia climbing in at 2 a.m. because she'd had a bad dream, and me too exhausted to argue with either of them. I lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, listening to them breathe. Nathaniel's grip tightened in his sleep, pulling me closer. Mia mumbled something about cupcakes. And I felt, for the first time in 5 years, completely and utterly at peace. Then Nathaniel's phone buzzed on the nightstand. And kept buzzing. And buzzing. He groaned, reaching for it without opening his eyes. "If that's Alex sending another video, I'm going to kill him." "It's probably your mother," I said dryly. "She's been calling for 3 days." He cracked one eye open. "Let her call. I'm busy." "Busy sleeping?" "Busy holding the woman I love." He pulled me closer, burying his face in my hair. "Go back to sleep. It's Saturday. We don't have to do anything." Mia chose that moment to wake up. She sat bolt upright, her hair a wild tangle, and looked at Nathaniel with wide eyes. "Daddy, are you staying for breakfast?" Nathaniel's face melted into pure adoration. "I'm staying for everything, baby. Forever, if your mom will let me." Mia looked at me. Mommy, can Daddy stay forever? I pretended to think about it. He's kind of annoying. He steals the blankets. I do not. He snores. I do not snore. He leaves his socks everywhere. Nathaniel sat up, mock offended. I have never left a sock anywhere in this apartment. Mia giggled, throwing herself at him. Daddy's funny. I like Daddy. Can we keep him? I looked at Nathaniel, at the way he held our daughter, at the way his eyes sparkled when he looked at me. And I smiled. Yeah, baby. I think we can keep him. 3 months later, Nathaniel had officially moved in. It had been a gradual process, a toothbrush here, a change of clothes there, then a whole closet, then his ridiculous collection of expensive suits taking over my tiny wardrobe. He'd bought me a bigger bed, a new bookshelf, and a ridiculous amount of toys that I kept tripping over. He also made my life incredibly difficult in the best possible ways. Like the time I was working late at the studio, finalizing a massive order, and he showed up at midnight with Mia wrapped in her blanket and a bag of takeout. You're working too hard, he said, setting the food on my desk. Mia wanted to see you. I wanted to see you too, Mommy, Mia chirped, climbing into my lap. I kissed her forehead, then looked at Nathaniel. You didn't have to come all the way down here. I wanted to. He leaned down and kissed me, soft and lingering. I always want to. Sarah, my assistant, was still in the office. She made a gagging noise. You two are disgusting. Nathaniel didn't even look at her. Jealousy is unbecoming, Sarah. It's not jealousy. It's nausea. You're like a Hallmark movie. I laughed, pulling Mia closer. Ignore them, baby. They're just grumpy because they're single. We're not grumpy, Sarah muttered. We're traumatized. Then there was the time I got sick. A stupid cold. Nothing serious. But Nathaniel acted like I was dying. He took 3 days off work, 3 days, to stay home and take care of me. He made me soup. He brought me tea. He tucked me into bed and read me ridiculous romance novels because I was too tired to read them myself. You don't have to do this, I told him, my voice hoarse. I'm fine. It's just a cold. You're not fine. He pressed his hand to my forehead, frowning. You're warm. You should rest. I am resting. You're the one who keeps fussing. He sat on the edge of the bed, taking my hand in his. I can't help it. I spent 5 years not being able to take care of you. I'm making up for lost time. I squeezed his hand. You're ridiculous. Ridiculously in love with you. He kissed my knuckles. Now stop arguing and let me be your nurse. Mia came in with her stuffed unicorn. Daddy, can I help too? Absolutely. He scooped her onto the bed. You can read to Mommy. I'll get more soup. They both climbed in beside me, Mia's little voice filling the room with a story about a princess and a dragon, Nathaniel's hand warm in mine. I closed my eyes and let myself sink into the moment. This was what I'd been running from. This was what I'd been too scared to hope for. A family. A home. A man who loved me so completely that he'd drop everything just to hold my hand. I wasn't running anymore. The proposal happened on a Sunday afternoon. It wasn't dramatic. There were no fireworks, no flash mobs, no grand gestures. We were in the living room, Mia playing with her toys, Nathaniel and I curled up on the couch, watching something boring on TV. Nathaniel had been quiet all day. I'd noticed, but I figured he was just tired. He'd been working a lot lately, trying to wrap up some massive deal so he could take time off for Mia's upcoming birthday. But then he turned to me, and his eyes were different. Serious. Nervous. Evelyn, he said quietly. I need to ask you something. I looked at him. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. He took my hand, his palm slightly sweaty. I've been thinking about this for a while. Actually, I've been thinking about it for 5 years. But I wanted to wait until the timing was right. Until we were both ready. I felt my heart start to race. Nathaniel. I love you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I've loved you since the moment I met you. I've loved you through every stupid mistake I made, every year you were gone, every second of every day since you came back. And I don't want to waste another minute. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My breath caught in my throat. Evelyn Wright, he said, opening the box to reveal a ring that was simple and elegant and perfect. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of you? Mia looked up from her toys, her eyes wide. Mommy, say yes, say yes. I laughed, tears streaming down my face. Yes, I said. Yes, yes, yes. Nathaniel slid the ring onto my finger with trembling hands. Then he kissed me, deep and thorough, right there in front of our daughter, who was clapping and jumping up and down. She said yes, Mia shrieked. Daddy, she said yes. Nathaniel pulled back, grinning like an idiot. She did. She really did. I looked at him, at his stupid beautiful face, at the way he looked at me like I was the center of the universe. And I felt the last of my walls crumble completely. I love you, I said. I love you too, he said. More than anything. The wedding was small. Just family and close friends. No press. No drama. Just us, standing in a garden full of flowers, saying vows that made everyone cry. Margaret was there. She'd come around eventually, after Nathaniel made it clear that she either accepted us or lost him forever. She still didn't love me. But she loved Mia. And that was enough for me. Olivia wasn't invited. Brandon wasn't either. Neither of them had spoken to us since the banquet, and none of us missed them. At the reception, Nathaniel pulled me aside, away from the crowd, and pressed his forehead against mine. Happy? He asked. Extremely. I smiled up at him. You? Ecstatic. He kissed my nose. I've been waiting for this day for 5 years. Technically, you didn't propose until last month. Technically, I wanted to propose 5 years ago. But you ran away. I laughed. You're never going to let that go, are you? Never. He kissed me again, slow and sweet. But I forgive you. Because you came back. And because you gave me the best thing that's ever happened to me. I looked across the garden, where Mia was dancing with Alex, her little feet stumbling over the grass, her face bright with joy. She's pretty great, I admitted. She's our daughter. His voice was soft with wonder. Our little girl. I still can't believe it. You're going to spoil her rotten. Obviously. He grinned. And I'm going to spoil you too. Every single day. Lucky me. Lucky us, he corrected, pulling me into a hug. Now stop talking and dance with me. We danced under the stars, surrounded by people who loved us, with a daughter who would never know what it felt like to be without a father. And I thought about the long road that had brought us here, the fear, the pain, the years of loneliness. It all felt worth it now. Every single moment. Because I'd ended up here. In his arms. Where I belonged. 6 months later, we were home. The 3 of us curled up in bed on a Sunday morning, Mia sprawled between us, Nathaniel's hand resting on my stomach where our second child was growing. Mommy, Mia said sleepily, is the baby going to be a boy or a girl? I don't know yet, baby. We'll find out soon. I want a sister, she announced. Girls are more fun. Boys are weird. Nathaniel snorted. I'm a boy. You're not weird, Daddy. You're just. She paused, thinking hard. You're just Daddy. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the bed. Nathaniel looked at me, his eyes full of warmth and mischief. She gets her humor from you. She gets everything from me. Including her good looks. Modest, aren't you? I have nothing to be modest about. I leaned over and kissed him. I have a gorgeous husband, a perfect daughter, and another baby on the way. I'm basically living the dream. He kissed me back, softer this time. You are the dream, Evelyn. You always have been. Mia made a gagging noise. EW. You guys are gross. That's enough out of you, little one. Nathaniel tickled her, and she dissolved into giggles. You're going to have to get used to it. Your mom and I are going to be gross forever. Forever? Mia asked, looking up at both of us. Forever, Nathaniel confirmed. I reached over and took his hand, lacing our fingers together. Forever, I echoed. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that this was where I was meant to be. Not running. Not hiding. Not afraid. Just home.